I'm happy to be here. I was telling you before we got on camera about the song and how I came up with it and all the things. But so I am a youth minister.
Uh huh.
I'm at New Horizon Church on Dixie. Um, that's a whole story. But a while ago, I feel like God kind of gave me this melody, probably about 8 years ago, and I sat on it for a while. And I sent you the song and things like that last year, but I don't know, it just never felt like the right time to move forward with it. I was trying to find another artist to collaborate with, and if we can get very candid in this conversation, I had also been trying to collaborate with an artist that was not black.
Hmm.
I had never really done that before. Are you familiar with like the Ninth Street Divide?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you are. Me, I'm still learning about it or whatnot, but I've only experienced it musically,
Yeah.
where I have tried to be booked at a Hotel Genevieve or being booked at the K Mat Couture fashion show for Derby, and I get no response. I don't get any support really. I've I've done headliners, but in collaboration with another artist, and but it's more easier to get a booking on the other side of Ninth Street. And so by me experiencing those things, it was a lot of different little things that kind of led me to like write this song and to collaborate with Gina C, who's a great artist, great singer, and our backstory is a whole thing. But yeah, I've faced a lot of things musically, which has kind of brought me to this song. But I didn't really, explore the history until I was looking it up, and your name came up, and your book, and all the things that you have voiced about my old Kentucky home, and so yeah, it's a pleasure to sit here with you, and it's kind of surreal actually. But like I was telling you, I didn't see this coming, but apparently God did. So
So I think it's important that we're both Kentuckians, right?
yeah,
We both
born and
clearly
raised.
care
Yeah,
about Kentucky,
yeah,
and we're coming from a place of love
yeah,
of our home
yeah,
and wanting to find ways to represent that
yeah,
and to share that
yeah,
that feel authentic and about today,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Not just about the past.
Yeah,
And so that's important because I think sometimes people think, well, you're trying to do something, take something away, but
right,
it's not about taking away.
right.
It's about being honest, being real,
Yeah,
and then being creative
yeah,
in this moment.
yeah,
And so for me, I really had to once I learned the backstory and like the origin and the blackface minstrel
yeah,
roots of this old song from the 1850s
yeah,
that really wasn't even a Kentucky thing. Like
yeah,
the person who wrote it wasn't
yeah,
from here,
yeah.
Stephen Foster.
Stephen Foster.
He probably never, he certainly didn't write it here. He
Yeah.
probably only touched ground here
So what
once.
made him write it?
What made him write it? Right.
Yeah.
So it's not from Kentucky. It's not ours, but we've made it ours. So what made him write it
Mhm.
is a great question.
Mhm.
This is the 1850s.
Yeah.
He's from Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and he's written a lot of songs, ones that other people will know,
Yeah.
like "Oh Susanna,"
Okay. Yep.
right? You heard that
Which is
one,
odd because I I teach piano vocal lessons to kids, and his song "Oh Susanna" is in one of my books.
right?
And before I knew what it meant,
Right.
before I knew what he did, I was like, oh, I love this song. And then I said, oh,
Well,
kids, we skip that song every time.
well, we
Now
can
I
give
skip it.
Stephen Foster props as
Yeah.
a songwriter,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this
Melodies.
guy
Yeah.
knows how to be catchy.
For sure.
But what was catching for him was that he was riding a blackface minstrel craze. This was the most popular form of entertainment in the whole country, and it spread all over the world. It became like the signature of being American,
My
was
God.
blackface minstrelsy. And people just have suppressed that because we now kind of know this is stealing someone's identity,
Mm.
pretending to be something you're not.
So let's
And
slow
it made
down.
fun of black people right, left, and center, and it made it seem like people were happy on the plantation.
So let's slow down because I really didn't even think that that was how people like to be entertained in that time. That was just pure entertainment.
Pure entertainment, and it was the most popular, it was the most important cultural invention of
Uh-huh.
this country until, do you know
Ooh.
what could have come and been most popular after that?
Oh God, no.
Jazz.
Okay, so
So
jazz was just like, oh,
yeah,
okay, we're
let's
good.
switch over and look at something else. But
Yeah.
actually, a lot of black
Mm.
people did get to be, were
Mm.
central to forming,
Yeah,
whereas
absolutely.
blackface minstrelsy was a white product.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And ripping something. And so when I found out that that was its roots, and when I looked at the lyrics closely that he
Yeah.
wrote in the 1850s,
Uh huh.
I saw a song that was about like the saddest, most tragic,
Mm.
most dark
It's
aspect of
eerie.
our
Yeah.
history, and it was about someone from Kentucky, someone enslaved, being torn away from their home. And how would somebody enslaved have been torn away from their home in the 1850s? By
Right.
being
Sold.
sold like a piece of
My
property that they
goodness.
were, and never to see
Their
their
family.
beloved
Yeah.
family or the
Again.
place they shared
Yeah.
again. And it was about a cabin, a slave cabin, and it was about this, third verses with stuff like the head will bow and the back will have
Yeah.
to bend
Yeah.
wherever
I hate that part.
someone with this skin tone may
Ooh,
go.
my
And
goodness.
I'm like, this is not, why are we celebrating this?
So what drew you first? Like were you a historian first and then you just were
Yeah.
attracted to this like tell me how they
Yeah.
both kind of
So
intersect.
I'm a trained historian. I've got a PhD. I know how to
Oh, I
do
did.
research. I love it,
Nice.
and I really like to write. And I like to write things about people or events that can connect to the present in some way.
Nice.
So eventually, having read this very offensive, very concerning lyrics to a song that I grew up just being thought was this nice part of my tradition,
Wow.
right? I thought I just am not comfortable.
You were
I'm not
disturbed a
comfortable,
little bit.
and eventually I was felt like if I didn't know this, and I have all my education and
Yeah.
know history as well as I do, then probably a lot of other people
What
don't
year
know
was that
this.
moment for you?
This was around 20 years ago,
20 years
a
ago.
long time
Ooh. And
ago.
when did this came out?
It came out in 2022.
What?
So I didn't start actually working on it
Oh,
for
stop it.
another till about 2015.
This came out only 2 years ago?
Hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's
Okay,
pretty
this is
new.
new. So
There's
20
a
years ago.
paperback coming out in this
Yeah.
summer, at the
Okay,
end of summer.
perfect.
But anyhow, so it bothered me so much that even though I didn't think this was really something I wanted to write about, I'm not an expert on music, for instance. I ended up
Well,
thinking, like, I've done biographies in the past
yeah,
about people. What if I do a biography of
on
a
a
song
song.
and how, not just where it started, but how it has danced
Ooh.
and been, enacted and
Yeah.
performed through our culture, and what I found out is that it has soothed white people's
Mm.
anxieties
Okay,
over something that is one of the biggest painful past parts of our past, right?
why are white people so connected to this song? Like, why, when you made your post, are we referencing to
Yeah, we
that?
can reference it.
When you made your post about that woman who was crying at the Kentucky Derby in connection to the song, where does that come from?
Well,
Why?
I am that woman.
Oh,
I have
okay.
cried. I mean, I was not the woman in
Really?
the picture, but I have
Wow.
cried at the Kentucky Derby with
Really?
this song. So, in the
Mm.
course of my research, I mean, I take that. That's
Very seriously.
real. I mean,
Wow.
I needed to understand her, and literally millions of other people who have cried to this song,
Wow.
and realize that when we were crying, we were crying about our own nostalgia for our family, our home, but we weren't thinking, of course,
Ooh,
about the actual
yeah,
victims,
yeah.
the
Love that
actual
song.
people that the song was about. And
My
that
God.
disconnect fascinates and troubles me.
So what's crazy about this moment is that I I'm realizing like okay there obviously needs to be something that is done right okay I wrote a song great woo but let's get to the deeper part of it right to have this conversation we've never met this is
No.
our first day meeting which is wild but and then we were talking about how you believe in a higher power as do I believe that this moment hasn't came by accident. Even with the artists that I've done the song with, I don't think that's by accident either. I think there is something that needs to happen. Even this, we're talking about Louisville and 9th Street Divide, but there's obviously even a bigger divide statewide, right?
Yeah.
What do you see from your experience as a historian, what needs to happen? Like, what specifically needs to happen? Like, conversations are cool, but what can we do to come together more?
Mm.
What do you think?
I think that people sharing a little bit more of this history will help jog the sense of comfort with this tradition. I don't
Okay.
think I think like I've been with this for a long time,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how I feel about it and what I want to do about it. What I did at the Derby last year was I turned my back on the track. When
Okay.
the song was
Is
played,
that the hashtag that you put?
yes,
Turn your
turn your
back
back to the
to the
track.
track.
And I actually really love the Kentucky Derby. I
Yeah.
love
I've never been.
horses. You should,
I want to.
someday you should
I want
go and you should sing a song there.
to. Wow,
But
that'd be great.
the fact that song does not make me feel good anymore.
Anymore.
It that's over for me.
It's
And
over.
when I did that, something really broke. I wasn't.
Ooh.
It didn't make any sense to sit down
Yeah,
among
yeah, no,
150,000 people. No one was
yeah,
going to
no.
notice that.
But to turn your
But
back.
to turn my back actually felt like I felt like something snapped. I was no
Wow,
longer under the spell
goodness.
of that moment of
Ooh,
togetherness. I mean, one writer called it the moment of moments
the
when
moment
those
of
horses
moments.
step out on the track and this whole everyone stands up and everyone roars. That is like mass psychology. That isn't about anything except asking people to be together. But what are we
Yeah,
asking them to be together
together for.
for? And so that's where I think we have a place to go. What do we want to be together for?
Yeah,
We want to be together for a Kentucky that
yeah,
we celebrate its beauty, we celebrate its people,
yeah,
we celebrate the hope we all have
yeah, for sure.
for ourselves, for our children,
Yeah,
for the land,
yeah,
right? And not something that is casting back to a time that was so
yeah,
full of
yeah,
torment,
yeah.
honestly.
I have a question. So, in terms of Derby and in terms of being at this particular event, like I just said, I've never been, right? So, in your experience, do you see this event? Do you see a lot of African Americans at this event?
More,
More?
a lot more than I did
Yeah,
20 years
20 years
ago,
ago.
for sure.
Right.
And
Is there
that's
any history connected with that at all?
Well, I
Or
mean, there was a time when black people were not allowed in
wow,
the grandstand. I mean, it was
wow.
a segregated event,
Ooh.
but before that, it was a not segregated event.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
when
really?
it first started in the 1870s,
It was not
80s,
segregated.
90s, it was not, and then there
Then it
came a point
became.
where it was, and then they desegregated it in the
Wow. In
60s,
the
I
60s.
believe.
Wow.
And then actually they sang, I don't know if everyone knows, but every lyric of the original My Old Kentucky Home has a racial slur in it, right?
Ooh.
I don't like to say that word. I prefer not to, but
Yeah.
it's important for
Every
everyone to
line.
know that. Every single verse
Every
has it,
single verse. Right. Yeah. Every
right?
single verse.
And so it was sung with that slur
Until.
until 1972. That's when, and the reason it changed was because advertisers who were on the national broadcast realized they didn't want maybe to be associated with something that was such a throwback and so clearly racist. So if for things to change at the Derby, Churchill Downs is going to need to feel that people don't want to be associated with something that has this racist baggage.
I noticed in doing my little research, nothing compared to what you've done, but there was an expose on this, and you did an interview. I think I don't know what news station it was, but they tried to get in touch with Churchill Downs, and they said that they surveyed people.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want you to speak on that survey, and is it really fair because African Americans not a lot attend the event, or not as many as white people, right? And so this survey, and
I think it's also just hard. I don't know what they did for their survey. I have no information on it beyond
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Okay. So a couple of years ago, Churchill Downs has been challenged. That's what you're referring to. And they've defended it in different ways. They've said, oh, this is a song that's really anti-slavery, which we can get into later if you want.
Right.
That is total bunk. That's just bunk. Or they've said, it's the state song. Well, that is true. It's our state song.
Yeah.
And then they've also said, our fans like it.
Yeah.
And our surveys support that.
Yeah.
But if the fans knew what it was really carrying and the pain that it carries, there are people who, for instance, leave the arena at Rupp Arena when the UK band plays it, because they don't want to feel reminded of a time when they were held as property. And you've got black players playing to that song. And it's hard, right, Chanson? I mean, people they aren't thinking demeaning thoughts, I don't think, when they're hearing or singing the song. They've been passed something down with love that did, however, have all those. And it would never have been institutionalized the way it was in this state if it hadn't been a blackface minstrel song that went around the world and everyone knew this song in the world.
Right there. So around the world, let's talk about the impact, the global impact that this song has had, not just statewide, not just nationwide, but I think I read about your father who was serving and how he heard the song in Japan.
In Japan.
Talk about that.
So he was in Okinawa in the Marines in the 1950s, and he just was riding his motorcycle around when he was off duty, and he suddenly had this very strange feeling, and he came around a corner and he heard My Old Kentucky Home being sung in English by small children in a school in Japan. And he didn't know, but I figured out that this song became embedded in Japanese culture.
Wow.
And talk about global impact. Like 150, 200 years later, you have Toyota coming to build the first auto assembly plant in the country, in Kentucky.
Wow.
The governor of Kentucky at the time said, I was able to win that prize because all the states wanted that big plant,
right? They came straight here.
Because Stephen Foster and My Old Kentucky Home.
Wow.
Because they knew it. Like they had a feeling for this song, and it brought good feelings.
Well, let's take a break. And we'll
we need a minute.
We need a moment. It's a lot.
All right.
I'm Nicole Banks with Nikki B Aquatics. My email address is nikkibaquatics@gmail.com. That's nikkibaqatics@gmail.com. Pricing is 1 years old to 12 is $30 per session. 13 to 17 is $45. So if you're interested in swimming, you can reach me at nikkibaquatics@gmail.com. That's nikkib aquatics @gmail.com. Thank you.
The lights of Kentucky Performing Arts shine on more than our shows. They illuminate a pathway of discovery for all throughout our Commonwealth. A pathway of creativity, confidence, possibility, of brilliance, inspiration, curiosity, and wonder. For 40 years, Kentucky Performing Arts has led a pathway to unite the Commonwealth around the joy of discovering the arts, and will continue to shine this light far into the future.
So a lot of history, right?
It's so deep.
But I would love to know your personal story with the song. That this old song, like how did you grow up playing it on the piano or singing it yourself in school? And then tell me maybe more about where Kentucky Heart
Yeah,
comes from.
yeah. So I just recall a derby season, maybe when I was a teenager, and just watching how beautiful Churchill Downs was on the TV in my parents' room, and just in conversation. And I think they were singing the song or something. I can't remember the specifics, but my parents, I don't know, I feel like my mom was in the kitchen washing dishes or something, and she was kind of humming it or singing it. And then she like put emphasis on the people are gay or something like that. And I just kind of chuckled, and I'm like, what's up with that? She was like, well, they used to sing darkies.
Oh my!
And
She knew it.
I said, what?
Yeah.
She said, oh yeah, absolutely. She said, look it up whenever you can or whatever. And this is just me kind of trying to recollect. I just remember her and my father telling me
Yeah.
that it used to say darkies, and it kind of struck a nerve in me, but not so much that I felt like I could make a difference or anything. I just, when they brought it to my awareness, I was shocked,
Wow.
very shocked. And of course, time passed. Like I told you, a melody from my song came to me a long time ago. And I actually wrote my song first without even remembering that moment. I didn't even that didn't even come to my mind when I was writing the song, Kentucky Heart. I just so for me it's a little deeper, right? Because I've always wanted to get away from here. To want to be a recording artist, a lot of people say Louisville's not the place. Like Kentucky's not the place. If you look at any famous people from here, they all left, went to LA or New York or something, and that was what I wanted. And so the way that life happens, I went to California. It didn't work out. Went to Atlanta, Georgia. Didn't work out. And I feel like it's crazy because it didn't work out. But by me staying here, I said, okay, I'm supposed to be here for whatever reason. Let me just try my best to pursue my music career here. And when that song kind of came back to my memory, I said, I'm going to go ahead and finish it. And then I guess something just sparked in me to look up my old Kentucky home. I don't even know what it was. I just wanted to see what our state song was.
Yeah.
And there's another song on our state song list.
Yes,
Bluegrass,
Blue Moon of Kentucky.
Yeah. And I looked that up too, and I said, "Wow, there's no women on this
Yeah.
list. There's no black people on it. Like, there's nothing. Like, it's just kind of sitting here." And like I told you, I wanted to collaborate and kind of break this Ninth Street divide and do something different with another artist. And so I reached out to Gina, who is a phenomenal singer, and yeah, the rest is kind of history. And for me,
Tell about the lyrics and the music. Like, what is it? What is the mood of it? What is your?
so it's obviously my roots are in the church. So some people say it kind of has a gospel feel. I have some hand claps in there. But it's a bright, light spirited song. Whenever I think of Kentucky, obviously being in Louisville, I just think of the skyline of Louisville coming from Indiana or Tennessee or whatever. I think of coming across a body of river and just seeing the skyline. So in the beginning, when I look across that river and I see that skyline, it pierces my soul every time. There's no doubt in my mind. They say home is where the heart is. And I just continue on talking about how wanting to be away from Kentucky at first has changed into me developing this love for when I come home. Because when I was in Atlanta, I came home from a car accident.
Right.
I was in Atlanta trying to pursue my music career, and late at night I was on my way home and I got hit from behind, and the car accident could have taken my life, but my parents had to come get me. And on our way home, of course, coming from South, you go through Tennessee, I guess, but just seeing that "Welcome to Kentucky" sign,
Right.
it was
And
a
home is where
yeah,
we're known, we're safe,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
loved,
yes,
right?
absolutely,
And that's the home that you're trying
yeah,
to,
yeah.
sounds like you're trying to lift up and remind us all about,
Absolutely.
right?
So in my, not everybody has my experiences, but mine were so dramatic. But due to my experiences, it has made me appreciate Kentucky more,
Yeah.
and the fact that I'm meant to be here. So, born and raised here, went to Manual High School. I went to the Youth Performing Arts School for piano, and so my focus has just been all music, music, music.
Right.
But again, I think I told you that this is my first season really trying to operate in these spaces
Yeah.
of history or politics and things
Right.
like that. And I didn't know it gets this deep, but to have some sort of peace in this musically, it means a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So to even
And you're
yeah,
not the first person to rewrite or try to suggest that this song should be different,
tell me
and
more.
not the first African American from
Really,
Kentucky to do so.
who's that?
So there was a wonderful, very accomplished person named Joseph Seaman Cotter,
Okay.
and I don't know if you ever heard, he had a well, he was the principal of an elementary
Oh wow.
school. His mother was held in as a bonded person. He really became a very respected, revered figure
Wow.
here in Louisville. But she was actually held at this old Kentucky home, this
Wow.
place,
Okay.
in the 1850s. And so he went there to visit it, and he came out because he was trying to find his roots, right?
Yeah.
It's the only home
He knew.
where she had
Or
lived or been near that
Yeah.
it was still standing.
Okay.
And so he went and he left. He said, you know, this song
Yeah.
does not reflect
Yeah.
the, he used the word Negro because it was
Yeah.
1920
Yeah.
of today.
Yeah.
We need
Better
a
song.
better song or better lyrics at least.
Yeah.
And so he rewrote it as like an empowering song for Black Kentuckians.
So he wrote. He rewrote the
he
song.
rewrote it with
Okay.
its different lyrics but to the same melody.
Got you.
But you are doing something which is maybe what's more needed, which is, this has been a song that's meant a lot to a lot of people
Yeah,
who
for sure.
did and didn't know what it was about.
For sure.
But maybe it's time for we have so much musical
Yeah.
talent like
Yeah.
you,
Thank
for a fresh
Thank you.
song for the next 100 years,
For sure.
right?
Hopefully so. Yeah.
When I look across that river and I see that skyline, it pierces my soul every time. There's no doubt in my mind. They say home is where the heart is. Well, I can't
And you have a petition for that?
Yeah, so on change.org, we have a petition. We're just trying to get the attention of some folks to try to get this song either
Right.
added to the list.
Yeah.
I know some
Right.
people use the harsh word of replace the song. I'm ambitious, but I don't
Right.
know whatever that looks like. But I'd like our song to be added to the
Well,
state
it's
list.
great
Yeah.
to have options, and there
Yeah.
is a sort of a example of that
Yeah.
in Florida, where they had another Stephen Foster song about Black people longing for the old plantation as their state song.
Did they
Called,
change it?
well, so they didn't literally remove it. What
Okay.
they did is they added another
a song.
song, and basically they never used the old one.
Oh, really?
They use the new one
one.
all the time.
Wow.
So when someone is inaugurated, like here,
Yeah.
we use My Old Kentucky Home.
Yeah.
But they would, instead of using Old Folks at Home
Yeah.
or Swanee River,
Yeah.
they use Where the Sawgrass Sways,
Nice.
which is someone
Nice. Yeah.
was, someone from Florida actually
Yeah.
wrote that song
Yeah.
instead of someone from Pennsylvania.
Right. And so Gina, the featured artist on the song, she mentions the bluegrass on,
Yeah.
our second verse, and the bluegrass state. You know what that means
Yeah.
when you hear it, right? And so, we got the opportunity to sing it for Governor Andy Beshear at his breakfast, his prayer
That's
breakfast.
great.
Yeah, we did it earlier this March, I believe, and it was great. It was a great opportunity. I think a lot of people, when my fiance and I were walking around in Frankfurt, people in Frankfurt recognized, like, hey, like that was a great song, and they enjoyed it. And again, my fan base is still growing, but the people that do support me, they said this needs to be a state song. Like I didn't even think about it, but I was like, oh, okay, well let's try. So I think it's worth a try.
It is worth a try.
Yeah, for sure.
And more people should hear your music, and more people should understand the reasons why it would be so good for our state to have a fresh start.
Absolutely.
Right? And so before we wrap up, I want to make sure that I get a chance to talk about some of the ways that I think this song has embedded in us as people in Kentucky and beyond as well, and also some of the ways that I think that it's continuing to kind of extract from this dark history, right? So when we sing, we breathe in and out. It becomes kind of like part of you, right? So if you're singing Kentucky Heart, you're feeling that. It's part of your system,
Yeah,
right?
my son sings it. He's 3 years old.
Right. And My Old Kentucky Home has been taught to children for so many generations, whether they're in schools in this state, across the state, or in high school courses, or college bands, right? Or piano classes, right?
For sure.
And Marian Anderson, who I'm sure you know,
Yes.
the great contralto,
Yes.
she said way back in the 1950s that it was time for the children of America to be relieved of Stephen Foster's songs.
Yeah.
And she was one of those children herself who had to learn that and had to sing it and perform it because it was expected of Black people.
Yeah.
And I just think we should not expect any Black people who to continue to honor that song if they know the history and maybe aren't comfortable.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that just about sort of how it embeds in us is through the continual buying and selling. So music is a commodity. We know that,
absolutely.
right? And Stephen Foster was kind of the father of pop in America.
Really?
Yeah, and blackface minstrelsy. It's kind of the antecedent of pop, the pop music industry. Okay, but that has so many spin-offs. And so one thing I brought today is this compact case. So it's a souvenir from the Old Kentucky Home, which is a tourist attraction. And it's just a really pretty little thing. And I think about someone buying that and taking it home and having it on their dresser, and how then it's part of us, and then their child says, oh, that's neat, what's that? It just gets passed down out of like affection and love and nostalgia that's innocent, and yet it's also continuing to profit off of that pain of
Yeah.
Black people being
Absolutely.
sold and their families being ripped away.
Absolutely.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, we don't need any more of that.
And here's like a bracelet, same thing. The sun shines bright, and we're wearing that, right? That's more modern.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then-
that's modern.
Yeah, this is just, I bought that a couple years ago. It's just
Wow.
a nice little leather
Wow.
bracelet.
Goodness.
And
And we're profiting off of
And
the
people
pain
don't
of
know
it.
that. Yeah, but they are.
That's so just eerie to me. It's just, it's not.
And then this is really offensive, so trigger warning for sure. But this is a postcard that would have been sent, you know, just through the mail. A lot of racist postcards in this country, but it shows these blackface minstrel depictions of happy people singing about with these first lines: "The sun shines bright on the old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer. The slur words are gay," and that is such a lie about slavery and about history, and blackface minstrelsy helped perpetuate that lie. And I just think it's important for us to see that is how a lot of people thought of that song for until finally in the 70s and 80s they were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be saying that word.
Yeah, right, absolutely. It's crazy how music, there can be some underlying story after story after story, and just darkness underneath a song that above, you think of a dog who's swimming, who above it's just like, but underneath it's like all this craziness. And thank you for kind of peeling back all of these layers. And we need that. We need that.
Yeah, I like to say that the original song that Stephen Foster wrote, those lyrics they kind of whitewashed what even the worst aspect of slavery, because it showed how everyone was happy until that bad moment.
Yeah,
No.
right.
Sorry.
No.
But then once the lyrics were changed in the 70s, 80s, not officially in Kentucky until the 86 did the D word get
1986.
extracted.
So
But
1972
at the track, 1986 by the state government. So, but that was almost like it ghosted it. So first whitewashing, and then just like we don't need to think about that at all.
Yeah, no. So
And
now
we don't need to be thinking about this, when we're singing something that's supposed to bring us together.
Yeah,
right?
So let's just eliminate it all together.
Well, at least give us an option.
So
right?
realistically, do you ever see the song being done away with?
I do not think in 100 years my great-grandchildren will be singing this song.
Really?
But I think it could change earlier. And I think giving people good options is crucial to that process, as is giving people the chance to digest some of this pretty heavy history.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. And I'll do my best
Good
to
luck.
spread your message. Thank you. Thank you.
And keep hitting up the people who have a chance to bring this up to the people who are, in a position to make decisions, like in our state legislature, and our governor, and Churchill Down.
And actually, this might inspire me to start getting into politics. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe it will.
We'll see. But thank you, and I hope you all visit the link, change.org. Visit the link, change.org, and if you just type in Chanson Calhoun, or maybe we'll link it below.
Yeah, get that link up there.
Get the link, share it, and if we can, get it to as many legislators as possible to hopefully add it to the state song.
And tell your friends. Just next time you hear the song or hear any reference to it or see a bracelet, just say something like, hey, there's a lot behind this.
Yeah,
we should know more about this.
Yeah, and the book, don't forget, My Old Kentucky Home.
Yep. The Astonishing Life and Reckoning of an Iconic American Song.
By Miss Emily Bingham. Doctor. I didn't know. Dr. Emily Bingham. I love it. Well, thank you all.
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Give me a hug. You're so sweet. Thank you.
If you do nothing else,
If you do nothing else.
Do nothing else.
If you 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 do nothing else.